side. Okay, give us a few seconds. Let's find a good view of a European bee-eater quickly. Now this is obviously quite unusual for us, with not having a... Oh no, he flew! Okay. Okay, there's one sitting. We're going to go for the long shot. Okay, Dave, let me just have a look. Where are we looking? There. Hang on, have I lost sight of him? No, down to the left a little bit. Up, 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 up. Center frame. Down a little bit. There we go. There it is. Look at those beautiful colours of the European bee-eater. Now, I'm sure we're going to see lots of them a lot closer. We are going to start running back towards Djuma, where we can... Our radios seem to work for now. And while we do that, before we go, one more bird for the road before we send you back to Jamie. Oh, interesting. Is that a very brief view of a Wahlberg's eagle? Okay, there it goes. So as the Wahlberg's flies off, we're going to fly back to Djuma. And while we do that, let's go back to Jamie.
I'm still with these ground hornbill, and I find myself absolutely fascinated by them. For a bird that can live, okay, this is in captivity, but they've been recorded to live up to 70 years old. So when I said earlier that they are long-lived birds, they really, really are. And in the wild, thought to have a life expectancy of around 30 years. And I'm very curious to see, I'm waiting for all of them to gather together. I'm hoping that that's going to happen, because so far I haven't seen a female. I thought I saw a female initially, but I haven't. That skin on the bottom of the throat is not blue enough for an adult female. Now, interestingly enough, we could still, because I haven't had a close look at one of them, so it could be a female and a male, so a breeding pair, with all male offspring. Now, here's the amazing thing, and one of the reasons why they're wonderful birds, but they're not very successful in the wild. Research seems to suggest that unless a bird, and this is through hand-reared specimens, because they have been involved in lots and lots of breeding projects to try and release into the wild, unless they are put as part of a cooperative breeding group when they're young, in other words, helping a breeding pair to raise chicks, they won't breed themselves successfully. That, unlike most other animals, that breeding instinct, that nesting instinct is not fully instinctive, and they have to learn it. They have to learn about how this whole process works, quite literally in a way, learning about the birds and the bees. Trying to figure out how it all works and how the dynamics interact is a different story completely. But how interesting is that? Unless they help their parents, they won't be able to successfully breed themselves. Now, I have heard stories of some groups, some young hornbills joining other breeding pairs, which is even more incredible. So other adults that aren't related to them, because usually you can understand that whole process. You can understand the whole process of cooperative breeding. If basically a sibling shares 50% of your DNA, it makes sense to try and help rear them biologically. But the fact that sometimes young ground hornbills join other breeding pairs to help them raise their chicks is also a truly fascinating dynamic. So these birds are really truly unique in terms of the way that they operate in their social structure. There is nothing out here that adopts a similar approach, and unfortunately it has been to their detriment. It means that they're very, very slow to grow the population, kind of like pandas in a way, relatively unsuccessful in the way they go about things in terms of making more ground hornbills. You see what I mean? See why there was such a hurry, though, to get to the sound? They've stopped completely. The Mauritius, what we were talking about, contact calls earlier, they're not contact calling anymore, so it must have been purely a dawn chorus process, purely letting other ground hornbills not part of this group know where they are. So they weren't calling to each other. It was for territorial purposes. Kathy, yes. You're looking at 5 of roughly 1,400 left in the world. That is a rough estimate. It's obviously difficult to know exactly because they're birds. They have wings. It's difficult to estimate an exact population, but research, okay, it might have changed. The last proper census that I heard about was around 2009, 2010. So they've had 6 years for that population dynamic to change, but they're sitting at around 1,400, maybe 1,500, give or take. There's a massive margin of error from researchers. Either way, the numbers are small, and studiers, researchers into ground hornbills have suggested that that actually equates to only around 400 to 500 breeding females. So females of breeding age. Which is quite a scary, scary thought, isn't it? That there are so few left in the world. Which is, as we've said earlier, why we've got to appreciate each and every moment spent with these magnificent creatures. They are as special and as rare as wild dog. That was wonderful. What a truly spectacular sighting. I wonder where they're planning on going. Keep moving towards Sydney's dam. Yes, I can, Anne, with pleasure. What a good idea. Anne would like to see a ground hornbill track. Right. Since our ground hornbill have largely disappeared, they must have crossed somewhere here. Hopefully I haven't obliterated it already. Otherwise there should be some further back that side. I will show you a ground hornbill track with pleasure. This isn't the best sand in the world. Okay, I've got the tracks, but it's not very clear. Let's go back to Buffelshoek cut line where we saw the two of them meet and cross. Let's go that side. Let's try it from that side. So it's very, very similar to all hornbill tracks are the same. They're the banana birds. Their tracks are shaped like bananas, and their outside toes are partially fused to create extra stability. So basically, like, I don't know, I'll have to try and draw it for you. But you should see it on the track as well. Okay. They crossed just here. Let's find a nice example. Such a pity this is such sandy soil where they've crossed. It was about here that they met in the middle. Ah, dear. Promised you a track. I've got to find you one. It's just tricky soil and tricky light. Grr. No, none of these are clear ground hornbill tracks. How frustrating. My apologies, I can't find you a good track to show you. They're all thoroughly indistinct. There's going to be a perfect track there, but I can't. I just can't quite justify going on to Buffelshoek for a hornbill track. Now, Cindy, speaking of hornbills, while I attempt one more time to get this right, it's frustrating me now. You want to know if there are any successful breeding programs? Yes, there are. And the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project has successfully released adults into the wild that have gone on to survive and to breed. It's a complex process, and they usually only have space for a certain number of birds. So how it works, because the second egg dies, the second chick will always die, because it is out-competed. Siblicide is very common with ground hornbills. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you. It's not because I'm ignoring you. I'm just looking for these tracks because it's frustrating me. What they'll do is they'll take the second egg and they will hand raise it in captivity, but they do it with puppets so that the birds do not imprint on the handlers. From there, they will slowly but surely introduce them into a, yes, there we go, got it. Sorry, that took me far too long. Okay, I'm going to have to get out to show you this track, because at the moment it's just dots in the sand. No, actually, it's not that unclear. So what they do, after I will get out and speak about this when I'm finished with the chat about raising them. Once they have hand raised them to the juvenile stage where they are capable of moving about on their own, is they will create artificial cooperative breeding groups. So they'll put them together in different age groups so that they can learn behavior from the others. And then they'll have sort of established breeding pairs that they will then introduce the chicks or the juveniles to and the sub-adults to, so that they can learn the whole process. It's an incredible program. It takes a huge amount of work, a huge amount of effort, and it is truly phenomenal that people are able to do that. So our ground hornbill track, unfortunately, as I said, it's not the most fantastic soil for it, hence why it actually took me a while to find initially. This is the ground hornbill track here. Its back foot has fallen into this dot. I'm not going to mess up the track in any way, just to point it out to you. This is the back foot here, and these are the front 3 toes. The outside toe, this is the left foot. This whole foot is the left foot of the hornbill. These 2 outside toes, so the middle and then the outside toe, are partially fused together here. So there's no separation. This is all fused, whereas this toe here on the inside of their leg is completely separate from the rest of the track. And all in all, what will happen, without drawing on the track itself, you'll get this kind of shape, so the banana shape. The left track will look like this, and the right track will look a little bit like this. So they sort of go inwards facing. Right, there you go. Not the best ground hornbill track I've ever found, but it will have to do. It's as good as it gets. There's one here, but it's not clear at all. The one actually came out this way, which is frustrating. Oh, here we go. Can you see this track there? Over here. Is it? Not really. No. You can see how difficult it was for me to try and find you a track. This is the track. This is the back foot and the 3 front feet. So again, left foot but going that way. Very inconsiderate of them not to walk on soft sand. It's a ground hornbill watching me. I'll turn around to show you now. Phew. Okay.
Well, we've got a wonderful traffic jam. He's just seen a kudu that gave him a bit of a fright. Look at this. A massive elephant bull. And I think he's going to go have a drink shortly, so I'm following him towards the Cheetah Plains Lodge Pan. Hello, big boy. Big adult bull in his probably between 30 and 40. Oh, he's getting the water walk. He's getting the water walk. Okay, I'm just going to jump around ahead of him to get to the water before him. Andrew. Isn't this exciting?
Goodbye, Frank.
Andrew, can I go to the mati in front of your car? As in Djuma?
Yeah, no problem. You can go there. Then, yeah, no problem.
Copy, thanks very much. Sorry, I just had to check that there were no guests napping in. Suddenly, camera. With some buffalo here as well. Oh, is he going to walk to the water? The water's just in front of us here. Alright, I'm really hoping he goes for a drink. Oh, look at that. I just love big ellie balls. Look, the water walk. The water walk. You get I love it when elephants do that. You can just check their body language. Starts becoming a little bit more bouncy. He's going straight for the water. Big boy. Don't spray us now when you're in the water. There's a bird while we wait for him to come down towards us. It's a little three-banded. So the bird is. Now it's probably going to be disturbed by the elephant. Here he comes. Oh yes, here he comes. Oh, I love it so much. Where are you going? The water's this way. Hey, big boy. Straight to the water's edge. That was a bit close. That nearly got to us. Dave, have you showered this morning?
Nope.
Oh, well, we might get in luck. We might be showered by an elephant. I'm just going to keep quiet so you can hear when he slurps the water in. Oh, he is just magnificent. Now this is right in front of the Cheetah Plains Lodge. Sometimes it's just nice to sit quietly and really just take in these animals. Speaking of that, quietly, let's just turn the radio off completely. Goodbye. Now we can listen carefully. Look at that water dribbling off his chin. Hi, David in Napa, California. David is wondering why elephants do that water walk. Is it for a reason? Well, David, I think it's probably the same as quite a few of the residents of Napa do the wine walk as they approach the wineries. I think just gets excited for a drink, and that's where it comes from. They can smell the water and they sort of get excited and start speeding up as they head towards it. Hey, mister. And now he's smelling elephant dung. Obviously been a breeding herd around here at some point. Connor is wondering, how much water can an elephant drink in one sitting? Is it limited, or can they drink as much as they want? Well, a big ellie bull like this, over a course of a day, is capable of drinking up to 100 litres, which is just under 20 gallons, if my maths is correct. Now, Dave, let's zoom in on... Oh no, don't worry, it's disappeared now. I'll keep looking for it. Oh. There was one of my favourite butterflies around the elephant's feet, but he's coming back on the back foot. Oh no, he's gone away now. Sorry, butterflies are very... Well, I'll wait for him to land, I'll tell you. Just come out, Dave. On the ground down here. There we go, look at that. Now, oh, that's a false acria if I remember correctly. I don't have my butterfly book. I definitely need to start carrying it with me. But isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? Oof, off it flutters. It looked like one of the false acrias, and I'll have to double check that when I get home. So, one of the incredible things is when we arrived, this little pan was overflowing with water, and he's drunk enough that it is no longer. So he's drunk a good probably 20 litres or 30 litres already. Now, just in his trunk, he can hold about 8 litres, just under 2 gallons of water in his trunk. Well, is he done yet? He's smelling the other elephant dung again, picking up information from it. Oh, and it looks like he's going to come right up to the vehicle. Hi, big guy. Oh, he's beautiful. Where are you off to next? Are you following the trail of a herd? Or are you going to stop for a snack on the acacia that's above you? I think he is going to stretch. Now, those leaves are out of reach of the females and the breeding herds. And you can see that they've kept it very, very highly trimmed, this large knobthorn. We're going to sit here with this elephant bull for a bit longer, see if he gets up to any shenanigans while we do that. It seems like Jamie is keeping our cat streak on the go.
Well, I would hate to have broken our cat streak, and hence the trip to the eastern side of Tambuti Dam in Buffelshoek. Now, unfortunately for our new viewers, this is outside what's known as a traverse area. In other words, we aren't allowed to go there. I'm sitting right on the boundary with my left wheel touching the boundary of Buffelshoek, and this is probably the best view that we can get of them. And they're sitting in the Tamboti thicket, so close, and yet so far. So there we go. They're very, very close. You might have seen the cub there briefly, going up to greet one of the lionesses. I have absolutely no idea how many lions there are here. And I'm probably not going to stick here for too long. Just nice to touch base, see the Nkuhumas. It's been a while since we have. And you know, we're starting to get withdrawal symptoms since we've been accustomed to seeing them each and every single day with their gorgeous cubs. It does stand to reason. It's a good thing that we enjoyed as much time with them as possible, because now that the cubs are a little bit larger, they're going to be utilizing... Oh, bless you, girl. They're going to be utilizing more of their territory, which means going up into Buffelshoek and into Torchwood as well, which means we won't be able to see them as often. But they're so close. Just come south. Look to your left and then go that way. It would be lovely if you did that. She's sitting with a full belly. You can see her panting. They've obviously eaten some buffalo recently. And Ellie, welcome to the Sunrise Safari again. I know we spoke earlier with the elephants. You wanted to know whether or not lions will travel on their own or in groups. Oh, here comes a little cub going up to say hello to Mom. One of the oldest or the middle set of cubs. Ellie, the females will travel in prides. So that is a lion pride. A lion pride is, the unit of a lion pride is made up of females and their offspring, and they will all be related to each other, except in absolutely exceptional conditions. The males occasionally do move about on their own, especially if there was only one male born to a pride of that particular generation, like, for example, the previous Nkuhuma male, nicknamed Junior, who has been hanging around with a new friend that he's found. But life is tough for a male lion on their own, and generally they try and avoid that situation. So if more than one male is born into a generation, can be from different litters but related to each other, they will form what's known as a coalition. And that's what we have as the dominant males of this area. A coalition of 4, used to be 5 males, 4 males known as the Birmingham Boys. And speaking of the Birmingham Boys, everybody, just for our regular viewers, we will be announcing their names and talking a little bit about why we have named them on the fireside chat this evening. So we will be having a fireside chat. It will be purely devoted to this whole process and how it's all worked out. So if you do have any questions about that, please do join us for the fireside chat. You can send through your questions and your comments in the normal way, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email through to questions@WildEarth.TV. Please do let us know your thoughts, and we will discuss more when we get to that particular appropriate moment. So Ellie, a coalition of males, it doesn't have to be related to each other. Like, for example, the young Nkuhuma male moved off on his own, and he found himself a buddy, another nomadic young male lion, and it's just safer to be in a group. If a male wants to establish their own territory... Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good, thanks. Go for it. We're just sitting here. What was I saying? Oh, yes. It's much easier to establish, because bear in mind, one of the sole focuses of a male lion's life is to establish himself a territory and breed with females and pass on his genetic line. That is much easier to do if you've got the advantage of numbers, as the Birmingham Boys had. And so they're not too fussy about joining up with other young males. As long as they all get a chance to mate, they're happy. And advantage of numbers outweighs all the other negatives. We've got lion prides and male lion coalitions. In this case, Ellie, there are 5 lionesses in this pride and 8 cubs. And they are currently dominated over by the Birmingham Boys, the dominant males in this area. The Birmingham Boys only came into power, for Ellie and for all of our new viewers. They only came into control of this area a year and a half-ish ago. Where are we? It was about a year and 3 months ago that they fully established themselves, kicking out the resident dominant males, the Matimba males. And it's a short-lived affair. Male lions live brutal, very tough lives. And they will only, in answer to Brian's question, they generally are only in power for about roughly 2.5 years, sometimes 3. But that depends very much on the dynamics of the area. So essentially, that is why when a male lion comes into a new area and establishes himself, he will go out and systematically kill all of the cubs of the previous dominant males. And he does that because he has no idea how long he is going to be able to maintain that territory. So it brings the females back into estrus faster. He doesn't waste any energy protecting cubs that are not his, and he can breed and reproduce and hopefully raise that generation to adulthood, or be in control of the area whilst the lionesses raise that generation to adulthood. At which point, chances are he is going to be kicked out. There will be another group of young male lions in an area like this, as massive as this, with such a healthy lion population. There are constantly up-and-coming young male coalitions and solitary young males that are constantly growing in strength and size and are able to challenge the dominant males in an area. The Birmingham boys might last a little bit longer, but we can't say for certain. I mean, it's just because they're young. They're only going to get bigger and stronger. They established themselves here when the youngest of them was probably just over 4 years old, which is relatively early for a male coalition. There's a chance they might stay for longer, but that's generally not, that's what actually nature wants to avoid, that kind of scenario, because otherwise what will start happening, let's say that male has produced female cubs, so they're now 2.5 years old, they're going to start going into estrus, and he will start mating with them. So you start to run the risk of inbreeding if a male lion or a group of male lions stays in control of an area for longer than around 2 years. Let's try a reposition. Let's see if we can see any better from a different side. I don't think so, though. I think this is probably going to be the extent of our lion sighting. Hopefully they decide to come south. There is, unfortunately for us, not unfortunately for the animals, there's water in Tambueti Dam, which is this water hole that they're next to. So they have no real reason to go south unless a buffalo herd comes wandering through. I think the dam wall's going to get very much in our way. Very valid point from Marianne in Texas. Yes, absolutely. Once the Nkuhumas start to push into Torchwood, it does, to an extent, overlap with the Torchwood Pride territory. And bear in mind, territories are not like jigsaw puzzles. They don't fit perfectly together with an established boundary like a puzzle piece. They overlap. The boundaries are fluid. The Nkuhuma lioness, the first one to give birth, actually gave birth on Torchwood. The Nkuhumas have always dominated right up until about 2/3 into Torchwood, at which point the Torchwood Pride territory is sort of more towards Kruger in that area. And for the most part, prides are good at avoiding each other. So the fact that the Nkuhumas have spent so much time here is one of the reasons why the Torchwood Pride have started pushing back into, I think, what was their old territory in Torchwood. But they only really utilize the eastern boundary of Torchwood, whereas the Nkuhumas spend a lot of time in the western portions. So first rock, second rock, those large sort of prominent rocks in Torchwood itself. I can't, I'm sorry. There's no good view. There's some trees, there's some bushes, and one cave viewing vehicle that can go onto Buffelshoek. Sorry, everybody, I think that's sort of the end of or extent of our lion sighting. There's some trees blowing in the wind, but no lions. So what will happen if the Nkuhumas start pushing back into Torchwood? They'll start to become more and more vocal, just to re-establish themselves, and chances are that will be resolved without any kind of confrontation between the two prides. Lionesses are usually quite good at that. Occasionally they encounter each other, and it can turn into quite a nasty scrap. They can do damage to each other, and they can fight almost as seriously as the males do. But for the most part, roaring at night, just establishing themselves slowly but surely is a good way of avoiding it. And lions are very good at listening, far better than human beings, in my opinion. They listen to the sounds of the roars, and they can do a head count and go, actually, it's really not worth taking on 5 lionesses that sound quite large, and the Nkuhumas are quite large, and they They sound as though they're determined. Let's move off. Or vice versa. It could work the other way around. The Torchwood females could outcompete the Nkuhumas, make a bigger noise, and the Nkuhumas could just stick around here. But I think they're going to push back into Torchwood. The Nkuhumas have always had a massive, massive home range. Let me just move out of the way so that Mike can make his way to the Nkuhumas. I want to show you something once Mike comes past about how close we came to getting Nkuhumas on Djuma. Good morning, everybody. How's it? How are you? Cool. Hi, guys. Are you on your way to Nkuhumas? Cool. Enjoy. Scoot them this way. Yeah, there is one station on lock, so you'll see them clearly. Cool. Enjoy. Yeah. Cheers. Right, let me go show you what I was going to show you. This must be the tracks from that mating pair of Nkuhuma lioness and Birmingham boy, and then the other male that joined them that you saw on the dam camera. Oh dear. I think that my forward thinking in moving away from Mike has meant that he's had to go round. He might have driven over them. Not his... Ah, there we go. Now, speaking of the Birmingham boys, I think it was Lauren, you wanted to know about how you can watch the fireside chat and whether or where we can watch it and how the Birmingham boy is with the hole in his face on his right-hand cheek. I'm not too sure which lions you saw on the Djuma Dam camera last night. There's some males' tracks. I'm not going to go get out of the vehicle because I don't want to startle the lions. They're quite sharp-eyed, and chances are they will see me. But there's a male lion track going into Djuma. I'm not sure which lions came through. But last time I saw the male lion with the hole in his face, he was looking much, much better. To me, he's one of the dominant members at the moment of the Birmingham boys. He's a big, big boy. He's a big male. He's much larger than his counterpart, number 3, that spends a lot of time with him. And he seems to be the one who manages to monopolize the attention of the ladies for the most part. But he was healing up beautifully. That cheek was all pink and healing, flesh was coming back. It looked far better when I last saw him. So you can be comforted in that. In terms of the fireside chat, same time, same place, the same way you watch our sunrise and sunset safaris. It will be, unless I'm very much mistaken, and Kirsty will correct me if I am, it will be the last 15 minutes of the sunset safari that will be the fireside chat. And goodness gracious, how exciting. Of course, we're getting a whole host of people returning to us once again, including Taylor and Mr. Henry. While I continue on and hope that the Nkuhumas come south, let's go back across to Brent and find out whether he's on Cheetah Plains, Djuma, where he is in the world.
Dave, what's that noise? Do you not know? Can you hear that, Dave? Just flew into me. Trying to be gentle. How close can I get, Dave?
Yeah, that's cool.
Look at that. The first cicada I've caught this year. Now, the funniest thing about cicadas is how you hold them depends on whether they scream at you. So let me just do this. You hold them like that, they don't stop. So this looks like a little redback cicada. I'm just trying to be very gentle with him. He wasn't gentle with me when he flew into me, so there we go. You want us to bring it closer?
Yeah.
So I'm going to let him go shortly. And say, there we go. So that's the bug you hear screaming all the time. Actually, I thought this was a redback cicada. I just want to have a quick look at it again. Sorry, I'm going to take it away. It could be a green or gold as well. I'm going to have to. I'm a bit rusty on my cicadas. But are you ready for the release? And as I said, I'm trying to be gentle with him. He wasn't gentle with me. He literally went into my nose. Now, Okay.
I'll be leaving them next year. No changes. I'll be out in the next 3-4 minutes.
He's gone. Alright, I'll tell you some funny stories about cicadas. Now, you get quite a lot of different species, and up in northern Botswana, you can get cicadas that are this big. And when you're driving through the bush, especially at this time of the year, as the mapanis are flushing green, there are hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of them. And sometimes we weren't in open vehicles, we're in a closed cab Land Cruiser, and off you're going, and one cicada would somehow fly into your window and end up under your seat somewhere screaming. And in a really loud, that was quite a quiet one, it was a small one. And literally, you would stop your car and spend 45 minutes digging, taking the seats out, looking under in your toolbox, under your spares, just anything to get that out of the inside of your cab. Now, when I was younger, of course I don't do stuff like this anymore. One of my best friends, we were out at a camp right up in the Mopani Veld north of Naipan, and the cicadas were going mad, and he went to bed early, and a couple of other us didn't. And that night I think we caught 55, 60 cicadas, and we placed them strategically all around the cab, inside the cab of his Land Cruiser, and he was leaving early the next morning to go back to Maun. Let's just say there were some choice words used in our direction when we got back into town about a week later. He was not impressed. Now, Dave and I have decided to cruise the Mawati riverbed looking for birds. I can hear him. Oh, but look who's looking down at us so sneakily. You see him, Dave? Okay, left. And up a bit. Oh, you got him. There we go. He was just sort of peering from behind a branch at us. A little vervet monkey. Feeding off the fruits of the jackalberry. Now, they do eat leaves as well, but I think in this case he's definitely after the fruit. Pluck, pluck. I love monkeys. Sometimes they're so scared the other monkeys are going to get there first, or not leave any, that they just literally stuff their cheeks till they're completely full. Let's have a look. This one's a bit more out in the open, a little bit lower. Was it behind a bush for you? No, out of it. Far left of the tree. Keep going. Come down. Keep coming down. There. Yeah, let's wait to see if it's got the fat cheeks. Oh, whoa, that wasn't so elegant. Let's see, there we go. Are we getting puffy cheeks? Not yet. Lots of animals love the fruit of the jackalberry, and none such more than the vervet monkey. Right, let's leave the vervet monkeys to eat their breakfast. And it seems like I've managed to find, I'm really hoping to find some cuckoos today. No, Dave, stop cuckooing. We've seen a cuckoo now, no more cuckooing. It is very much sounds like a Monty Python skit to me, but anyway, carrying on. Also, of course, as we delve into the Mawati River, we're on the search of the nemesis bird. Now, we're not the only bird in search of the nemesis bird. So, as I said, we're in search of the white-throated robin chat. We've only managed to get it once on camera, and it was right here. Now, the red-chested cuckoo, who we're in search for as well. Oh, sorry. Yes, the red-chested cuckoo, not the black cuckoo. The black cuckoo has a different brood parasite. So the red-chested cuckoo is also in search of the white-throated robin chat as one of its favorite hosts. So what they'll do is they'll pop their eggs in, kick the white-throated robin chat's eggs out, and get the robin to do the parental work for them. I do love coming down into the Mawati, especially as it gets a bit warmer and we come into the shade and under the glorious trees. Hornbills making lots of noise. Can't see where they are, top of the tree somewhere. Now this is the white-throated robin's chat's hangout. Well, where we hear and see them the most commonly. I think I spotted him. Okay, there's a little bird party, and I think I might have got a glimpse of the robin chat. Definitely a Karachani thrush as well. Chai Connie's wondering if we get European storks in South Africa. Oh, we'll start off with it. Looks like a bearded woodpecker. Wait, go top first. A bit higher, I think. Oh, it's gone. No, it's still there. What was that? Oh, a black-collared barbet. There we go. So I said there's a little bird party here, so that's the first species. There's a bearded woodpecker in and around there somewhere. Let's keep moving forward. Sorry, Chai Connie, I got so distracted there. Is wondering whether we get white storks here in South Africa. We do. Sometimes even we might even get them at Djuma from time to time, depending on rainfall and insect numbers. But you definitely get them on the high veld of South Africa where there's lots of grasses. Okay, there goes the barbet. There's the woodpecker. It looks like a bearded. You got him, Dave? So we're the second fork of the long straight. So wait, a little bit higher. Oh, you got him? Oh, there's something else there. No, that is a grey go-away bird in another tree. There we go. Hello, grey go-away bird. Okay, so you're on that left-hand branch that splits into three.
Yes.
He's just popped around behind that one there. Where do you go now? Come on, woodpecker. Oh, he's not being very, very forthcoming. Okay, well, maybe we'll see him from the other side of the tree. Oh, there he is, he pops his head up. Wait. Now he's popped his head down. Naughty woodpecker. Okay, other side of the tree, I think, is the option. Of course, as soon as we move again, he's going to come around this side of the tree. But summer definitely feels like it's in the air now. So, robin flew into this area. No sign of it yet. I just really, really like this part of the Mawati, especially this little section over here. Some of my favorite trees on Djuma are here. Massive leadwood, massive knob thorns. Look at that, beautiful. This leadwood coming up is one of my favorites, just the shapes on it. It's probably, that leadwood actually is easily 1,000 years old. Imagine the stories it could tell. A big leadwood like that. Now, leadwood trees, interestingly, in areas that have gone without water for a long time. A great example of this is certain parts of the Mababi Depression and the Savuti Marsh in Botswana, is that there are leadwoods standing there that have probably been dead for 100 years. They can stand, that wood is so dense, they can stand for over 100 years. And it's actually quite a good way when you're moving into a new area. If you find a whole bunch of dead leadwoods, they've normally drowned. And what happens is there's been obviously a flood or a great rain, and there's been enough water inundating that area for the leadwoods to die. Oh, hello, Nyala. go, male Nyala in the Mawati River. I heard a classes cuckoo calling. He looks a bit bemused. What are you doing in my riverbed? I do love that little white chevron between the Nyala's nose. Now, I know a story that I've told many times, and we've got so many new viewers that I think I'm going to share it again. So the scientific name for the Nyala is Traphalagus angazi. And what happened was, there was a Scotsman who came and landed in what was Port Natal, now Durban, got some Zulu porters and gun bearers, and he went off, as all the naturalists of the 1800s did, with his rifle to try to identify new species. And at that stage, Nyala only lived north of the Tugela River, and Durban, Port Natal, is south of the Tugela River. And off he wandered, and just north of the Tugela, he spotted one of these beasts. He shot it in the name of science, and then asked his Zulu staff, "What animal is this?" And they went, "Angas!" So they said, "Oh, that must be the name for it." It is, of course, not an Angas, it's an Nyala. Nyala is a Zulu word, it's a Zulu name. But you must remember that the Zulus to the south didn't often travel that far north. So basically, the Nyala became known as the spiral-horned Traphalagus, that's his family. I don't know. Angas means I don't know in Zulu, and he doesn't look like he knows who he is either. But let's go across to Jamie with another animal that's got a bit of an identity crisis.
I don't know. I think the zebra are pretty secure in their stripy skin. Luckily, they've got plenty of company, so they can all share their horse with an identity crisis symbol together. Alright, just take a moment to take a sip of water. It is already over 30 degrees in the sun at whatever time of the morning it is, early. 8. At 8 in the morning, it is over 30 degrees centigrade, so it's going to be a baking hot, blisteringly hot day today. And of course our zebra, having stood so patiently for us in the road for ages, have decided to go wandering off into the thickets and see if we can catch up with them. They blow out of their nose like that. It's talking about botflies and that female buffalo. It's to disrupt the infestations that most of them have in their nostrils and their sinuses. Shame, must be so uncomfortable having fly larvae up in your nose. So that's what they're doing when they're going and shaking their heads. The zebra have an interesting social dynamic. A male will have a collection of females that is known as his harem, which is a lovely description of the way that it works. And he keeps guard behind them, usually walking at the back of the group, and a stallion is very, very defensive of his females. I've seen some truly extraordinary feats of bravery from male zebra. I saw one once. The hyena had, yes, you see, that's where he was walking off to earlier. There's another stallion lurking, and he is not happy about it. This obviously is his herd, and he's keeping a very close eye on a potential rival. As I said, I once had a group of hyena clan, that had killed a baby zebra and dragged it into a waterhole, as they often do. They love storing food in water. And the stallion was desperately and valiantly trying to fight back about 6 hyena. He would race forward, he'd charge forward with his legs straight, and he'd sort of do this hopping, charging motion to try and scare them off, and then the hyenas would rally and chase him away. And even though this foal was very clearly dead, I don't think he'd realized, and he tried so hard to save it. It was a truly special moment. So they're very protective over their females and over their offspring. But that also includes fighting off rivals. And as I said, I think that there's a lurking stallion here that he's terribly unimpressed with. He's put himself between the herd and the stallion, who's disappeared now. Oh no, I can just see it. He's over there. Just some stripes hidden in the bushes. And I think that's the reason behind the alert and tense posture of the male. And when zebra fight, They really seriously fight. They have sharp teeth, very sharp incisors, and very powerful legs. They kick and they bite, and they can do extraordinary damage to each other. I'll just go forward ever so slightly so we can look at him. He's quite magnificent, this boy. You can see the alertness in the tension of his body. He's not feeding. Heads up, ears forward, looking back constantly in that direction. And tail actually slightly stiff as well. You can read so much into an animal's body language by their tails, and we might even find that these two have already come to blows, although he looks relatively unmarked. Look at him, he's really a magnificent stallion. Very thick, powerful neck. We don't often get to see stallions fighting together, but when you do, it is a true spectacle of nature. It's actually quite scary, the amount of aggression that they can show towards each other. And it's not just the males, the females do it too, particularly in a harem. They kick and they bite each other to make sure everybody knows the hierarchy and doesn't overstep the boundaries. Here we go. I think he feels satisfied now that this male has learnt his lesson. They're those strong hooves and powerful legs. You definitely don't want to mess with a male zebra and his harem. It will be an interesting experience. Something that Lexi learned. Lexi is my Weimaraner. Lexi learned very quickly. Don't chase zebras. They chase back. And they chase back and they're scary. I'm sorry, I'm thinking. I've got a question that has... Right, let me reposition to get a view of this. It's actually two stallions, and then I'll answer Faith's question, because Faith's question is a very interesting one. Faith would like to know, what are the oddest animal behaviors that have truly stuck in my memory? I'm trying to think. There's odd and then there's extraordinary, and those are two different things. There's moments that have stuck in my memory and will always will. For example, the way that all of those elephants gathered when the little elephant calf fell down that hill, tumbled down that hill, and the way that they reacted and responded, the whole herd moving to comfort that little thing. There was the incident, Faith, this actually wasn't my sighting, but I did watch the clip afterwards. It was tragic, of the stallions, just talking about zebra, the stallions that attacked a foal and proceeded to beat it up in the most horrendous way. They actually ultimately resulted in the death of this poor little thing. A group of stallions gathered around, I think, was it Scott? Was it Scott's sighting? Or was it James's? I can't remember. I think it might have been...
Me and James found it on foot and Scott was...
That was it. Thank you very much, Liam. The font of all wisdom. Liam says himself and James found it on foot, and they called Scott into the sighting on a vehicle. It was an awful sighting to witness. And the zebras are kicking a foal to death, and we've spoken to various people about the explanation behind that behavior, and we were right, by the way. This is two stallions that are lurking on the boundaries. And the explanation was that probably the foal got separated from its family group and started panicking and started making little alarm calls and contact calls, which in turn will potentially attract predators. And zebra respond quite aggressively to animals that put their lives at risk, even if it is just a little foal. But the other explanation, of course, is that it's not their bloodline, it's not their offspring, and therefore they're not invested in protecting it. But it was a truly brutal sighting, and I think that will stick in everybody's memories for a very long time. That's an odd example of animal behavior. As I said, the elephants gathering around to protect that calf, the way that Tundi went to defend her cubs against the baboons. We've seen some truly extraordinary things here. Can you think of any odd sightings, Liam, that stick out? But lots of amazing moments, but most of the sightings we have had come with an explanation involved. But that is the joy of the live safaris, is that there's no editing involved. It's not a documentary. It's not really a documentary. It's something completely different. You can't script and put clips in of a completely different animal and pass it off as the same one. It's something totally, totally different. The animals do all of the work for us. It's another odd sighting. I have to think about it, Faith, and get back to you. But that zebra one definitely is high up there. So these two have obviously been put in their place. He's found a nice patch of shade for now. As herd animals, once they are kicked out of their own herds, when they reach sexual maturity as a young male, they will group together and form a group of bachelors that have a sort of a loose hierarchy. And they often spar with each other, fight with each other, to practice their techniques for the day when it will come time to compete for their own harem. These boys aren't there just yet. They are much, much smaller than the stallion we saw earlier. I think they need to learn to pick their battles, because they definitely weren't going to win that one. Oh, what a brilliant one. Thank you so much, Lou, for that reminder. I can't believe I didn't think of that first. In answer to Faith's question, and actually VM was on camera with me. The tortoise and the sticks, VM? You were on camera with me, yeah. We had an extraordinary sighting with the 3 sticks females before they had their cubs lying up on the southern boundary of Djuma, and one very tiny, if I'm not mistaken, was a Speaks hinge tortoise that decided to go crawling right up to the lioness and ultimately ended up in an accidental cuddle. I don't know if it was seeking out warmth or if it just wasn't really concentrating on where it was going. But either way, the lioness was lying completely flat on her side. And this tortoise sort of came closer to her and she ended up putting her paw on top of it. And this little tortoise underneath. And lions do eat tortoises. They often harass tortoises. They've got jaw strength capable of breaking open a tortoise shell, especially a little one. So we're all sitting with bated breath waiting for this poor tortoise to get noticed and chomped. And it didn't. Eventually she rolled over onto the other side and the tortoise made a beeline and off it went into the bush. That was a truly odd encounter. That was one for the books. And then unexplained sightings of aggression. We were not too far from here. In fact, it was almost exactly here that female elephant knocked over a younger member of the herd. But that, I think, is relatively common. It was just that we couldn't really provide an explanation for what it was that had upset her in that situation. And then young animals. Young animals are often responsible for interesting and odd sightings. And I know that Brent's often told me stories of young Djuma doing strange things, and I'm sure he'd like to elaborate a little bit on that. Perhaps he's got more tales to tell you.
Oh, very much indeed. My strangest stories since being at Safari Live were with young Djuma. Djuma was a male leopard, one of Karula's last set of cubs that survived to adulthood. And he used to behave quite strangely, running up massive dead leadwood trees, nearly having the branches break under his weight and running down again. But still, I think the most odd thing I've ever experienced at Safari Live was when he went to go have a drink at Cheetah. Sorry, I'm just double checking on these lion tracks. I think one lion might not have crossed, but what I think happened, what I know happened to Cheetah is that there were 2 Duggar boys lying in the mud, and Djuma came for a drink and he snuck up on them, and the buffalo were just lying there, minding their own business, chewing the cud. And he just walked up and went, whack! Smacked a buffalo on the bum for no apparent reason, jumped up a little jackalberry tree, and then proceeded, when the buffalo decided to try hook him with his horns, he just sat there going, it was quite incredible. Now, I'm just double checking. that lion didn't stay in Djuma. I don't know, we just found his tracks again now. I just want to have a quick look. There's a coming this way, so if he's crossed, he should have crossed around here somewhere. I didn't see any tracks. Ah, there he is. Okay. Oh, he did cross. Oh yeah. Well, I heard some elephants back down that way, so let's head there. Whee! Ah! And why not? Because we haven't for such a long time. Okay, well, we've got a question from Faith. I'm going to answer it in a second, Faith. Now, first I'm going to drive Dave mad. Where did it go? Oh, you're lucky, Dave. You're very lucky. Maybe not. Okay, did you see that? Oh, no, it's too fast. Okay, I won't torture Dave with a tiny moth that's fluttering about. But okay, now I can torture Dave with a tiny moth that's fluttering about. There's quite a few of them, and their camouflage is actually, oh, darn it, incredible. Okay, I'm trying to just move very slowly. I'm going to pick up a piece of grass. You see the end of that grass. Ooh, is this too close, Dave? Look there. Look at that. A grasshopper that looks like sand. So if you stop and look, there's always amazing things around. So look at that little grasshopper. It's same color as the soil here. It looks like these granite soils on the crest. Can you see him, Dave? Yeah, beautiful. There we go. And see, there he is. Hello. Up. Okay, now back to the moth. I don't know if this other plant is in the way. But do you see the end of my stick or my grass? Yes. Can you see the moth? Yes. Now look at that. That is incredible. Oh, look at all, he's coming to visit. No, it's gone away. So there was a broad-banded grass yellow, one of a very beautiful butterfly that came fluttering past. But look at that there. So that's incredible camouflage. It just looks like it's part of the plant. I don't even know what type of moth that is. But the real reason why I stopped here, and don't worry, Faith, I haven't forgot about you. I just quite like sitting in the sand. It's quite pleasant. From sitting in the Land Rover, good, clean African dirt. Now, what I actually stopped to get, just make sure there's no other wonderful little creatures around. No? Okay, let's carry on. You know, it's not the healthiest looking one. It's called a string of stars or a lamb's tail. Now, it is one of our more common flower species, especially on open areas or next to roads. And okay, just click back in. Now, it is a heliotrope. Now, helios is, of course, the sun. So a heliotrope is a sun follower. So what happens is, what these flowers do during the day, and they do it ever so slowly, as the sun moves, the whole plant will move to face the sun. Isn't that incredible? The heliotrope. These are quite old already. You can see some of them have already died. And it could be just from lack of water. I can still hear those elephants, so let's head in that direction. Now, Faith, you mentioned me say a lodge. You mean I can come on a safari to these places? Yes, Faith, you can indeed. And there are multiple different lodges in this area that you can come on holiday to. There's Djuma, where we live. They've got 2 lodges, Galago and Vuyatela, and of course Arathusa Safari Lodge, where we also drive, and Cheetah Plains, and a whole host of other ones. Cheetah Plains, where we were with that elephant, the lodge was right there. So the ladies who were setting up the breakfast table waved at me while we were sitting with that elephant. Okay, let's see. Those eddies sounded like they were just up ahead here. Hopefully they haven't moved off into these little riverine thickets to the north of us. It's quite warm already, Dave. What do you think? What temperature do you think it is? 26? I think it might even be 29. 28. 28. Just go. Safe bet. There we go, final control there. So it's actually 27 and 80 Fahrenheit. So we're around there. But I mean, that's already at what? Not even 8:30 in the morning. Okay. Where did those elephants go? This is where I heard them. And there's tracks vanishing. Quick moving ellies, these ones. Obviously in a rush to get somewhere. Oh, there they are, disappearing. Oh, we're just a little bit too late. Oh, and they're just moving into those riverine thickets. I was hoping to catch them before they did. Now, hello, Steve. Steve is in Taiwan. And Steve is wondering, how do elephants get their salt intake in this area? Well, Steve, they will eat soil mostly, mud. And in certain areas they will excavate that soil and eat it. And it's not only for salt, also for other minerals that they might be lacking in their diet. And you can actually see on seep lines and areas that are eroded and sodic sites, you can actually see the salt buildup. I'll try see if I can find a spot like that for you, Steve, and you can actually see the salt. You can taste it as well. It's incredible. So this is that little river system the elephants are heading into. Lots of dips, and we're not really going to go bashing and crashing off there. But you see the elephants quite like to put things across the road for us. That one's not so bad, we'll just hop. There we go. That one wasn't too bad. But if I remember correctly, there's one that we can't hop over, we have to drive around on this road. Now I'm hoping we might get some more bird species before the end of the drive. Dave and I had a very brief visual of a Deirdre's cuckoo, but it was too quick for us, so hopefully we'll be able to find it again shortly. But while we continue our search for all the wonders that lie here on Djuma, let's go see how Jamie's search is going.
Also searching for the wonders of Djuma, and I have to say, Djuma holds many zebra, is what I've learned at the moment. But for now, we'll stop and have a look at these male impala that are thinking about sparring with each other. Yes, no? I can see the wariness of their body language. The one closest to us approaching the second. Okay. Relaxed again. Hey boys, full of the joys of spring. I figured with the warm temperatures it might be worth coming and having a look at the mud wallows on Twin Dams, and I did see an elephant across the Mulwati, so I'm hoping we might catch up with them there. Now let's go on a little bit further and see if I can see that elephant again. Even now, early in the morning, for the elephants, it'll be a nice time to go and have a mud wallow. And I can see what these zebra have been shouting about. They lots and lots of bachelor groups as we've been driving along Vulture's Nest Road. I've probably seen 40 zebra from Hyena Road to Vulture's Nest. That's about a kilometre stretch of road. Lots of them around. Right, where's this elephant? I know I saw one. And morning to Velma in Michigan. Good question that's come through from you, and I've been thinking the same thing. You're saying it seems as though we're seeing a lot of baby elephants. Is this unusual, or is it because they're coming in from Kruger because of the drought? And Velma, it's not unusual. This is the sort of, not prime breeding season, but it is a peak breeding season. But I think you are right in that it has to do with the drought. I think it's just a higher concentration of elephants. Since we've had more rain, they're coming to this area because it's greener and there's more food. So we're seeing more elephants, and therefore we're seeing more babies. Oh look, zebra. You're not an elephant, but I swear I saw an elephant somewhere in here. From the other side of the drainage line. There's another bachelor herd. Also having come in conflict with each other. They must have been responsible for the yipping that I heard earlier. Marching off away from Chelepan in single file. Can see an elephant. Oh, there's the elephant. So I didn't imagine it. I'm very glad to see that. I thought I was going slightly crazy. The zebra exceptionally unsettled. It's because the wind has picked up, and they know how vulnerable they are around a waterhole. They have to put their heads down. So as a result, they always approach with great caution. Elephant? I see you. Don't you want to come and enjoy the water of Chelepan? Somebody else is. And it's very common for us to encounter these big buffalo bulls in the remaining muddy puddles. This is Chelepan. It's one of the biggest natural water holes that we have here. And there's always one or two resident Duggar boys. Oh, look, somebody's still thirsty. Who wants to come for a drink? Ah, thank you. Good spot. I don't want to reposition because I know if I do, the zebra's going to get up and run away. One thing we would have been able to notice as he drinks is that all zebra have very, very dark noses. And Monkey Business, you wanted to know if zebra gets sunburnt noses, and the answer is no, not really. And the black around the nose, which is of course is a good question because that's where some of the most sensitive skin is, and particularly in equids. They've got very, very sensitive skin around their muzzles, around their snouts. So no, the black around the nose is one of the biggest protective features to help guard against sunburn. Generally, most of the animals are well protected against the harsh effects of the African sun, from the elephants with their dark grey skin that they very frequently cover in mud and sand to help just add to that protection. Oh, I love the trunk there at the back as well. Come on, Eddies, come have a drink and a bath quickly. Just for the last few moments. The elephants are well protected. Most of the animals are well protected. It's one of the reasons why albinism, which you do see in certain species, like elephants, albinism is very, very rare. And those animals that are born albino seldom survive to adulthood, and it's not a gene that is selected for. I've never heard of albino zebra, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. See, some of them still want to go and have a drink. You can see the unsettled body language, and there's clearly been plenty of aggression here between them, because whenever they walk in close proximity to each other, ears go flat, backwards. Those of you with horses will know immediately that that is generally a sign of an unhappy animal. Let's just watch for a second, because they're all gathered together here, and they seem to have reached a sort of a standoff, an uneasy truce. He is constantly twitching backwards and forwards, listening to the sounds of the bush. And you can hear, I'm not sure if you can hear actually, you probably can't, the wind is now howling once again. It's a little bit like being in a hairdryer. Now, one of the reasons for this animal's caution in approaching the waterhole is their natural instinct that... Sure, lots of zebra fighting going on. Their natural instinct that big bodies of water are to be feared and to be approached with a huge degree of caution. And that's because, yes, we could get crocodiles here. I haven't seen crocodiles since I started working on this. No, that's not true. Sorry, that's not true. I did see some crocodiles at Sydney's Dam, tiny little ones. Apparently, crocodiles used to be a regular sighting, but of course, with the drought being what it is, those sightings are now relatively unusual. Most of the surviving crocodiles have moved off to the bigger bodies of water. But yes, we could get crocodiles here, and it's one of the reasons you'll find with all of us, any kind of body of water in the bush is to be approached with caution. You never know who might be lurking there, and a body of water that didn't hold a crocodile one day, you can come back the next day and all of a sudden there is one. That being said, it would take quite a large crocodile to catch a zebra of this size, and this body of water is not really large enough to support a massive Nile crocodile. It would take one at least, I would say, at least 2 to 3 meters long to be able to catch a zebra. But if you go further to the south, if you go towards the Sand and the Sabi rivers, there are absolutely crocodiles. You'll see plenty of them if you ever find yourself visiting the Kruger National Park. That is an animal that I'm still waiting to properly have a sighting of. Right, I'm going to move off, I think, since our elephants are playing hard to get. Let's head across to Brent and find out what his plans are for the last few moments of our sunrise safari.
As always, I'm the eternal optimist, so I'm checking our southern firebreak for any signs of Queen Karula. And fingers crossed, you never know what could be around the next corner. And of course, I'm still in search of all the new migratory birds that have arrived in the last while. So far, we've got to see black cuckoo, African cuckoo, European bee-eater today, that was a good one. Broad-billed roller, that was the best one. Davio Ariel is monk. And what else? I'm trying to remember now. We've heard quite a few other cuckoos, and I'm hoping to find some of them for you, but as the wind picks up, it does make the birding a little bit more difficult. So who knows? We'll have to try on the sunset safari. Remember, there is a fireside chat tonight, and the topic is the Birmingham boys. Pity we didn't see any this morning, but we heard them. Why, the Impala believed me. They thought, why, where's that lion? My goodness. Yeah, see, the Impala believed me. For once, an animal believed my lion roar. And of course, for those of you who don't speak lion, what the lion is actually saying is, whose land is it? Whose land is it? Whose land is it? It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. That was taught to me by my father and grandfather as a small child to understand what lions were saying. Of course, there's different variations, but we can't get too into lion talk for now. Ellie says she's got a very important question that only I can answer, and she would like to know, how does one grow such glorious hair? I don't know. Probably you just add some good old African dirt into it, some African sunshine, and let it be. That's the only thing I can think. Now, of course, since we are talking about the Birmingham boys this evening, I think my mane is more impressive than theirs, but I will have to see. We can discuss that later on the fireside chat. Whose mane is more impressive 1 to 4 Birmingham, or actually I was trying to think, or Brent, or the B. I don't need I'm just the B. You got the Birminghams, I'm just the B. We're all manned, and I think my man's more magnificent. But enough of this nonsense. Let's go to Jamie so she can say goodbye. We'll see you on the Sunset Safari.
Well, certainly Brent sports an impressive head of hair, perhaps even to rival the Birmingham boys. His beard, on the other hand, well, I think that the Birmingham boys definitely win that particular context. But don't tell him I said that. Kirsten, don't tell him I said that. And so, on that note, while we practice our arguments for tonight's fireside chat, we're slowly meandering our way back home. It's breakfast time and time for meetings and all sorts of things. For the last few minutes, I was going to try and show you what I thought was a cuckoo, but it turned out to be a very rapidly moving swallow. That's definitely not going to work. Well, for the last few minutes, let's see what exciting things we can find. Oh, there's something very large. What a nice way to end. Finish off the sunrise safari in the same way we started it. Possibly even with the same herd of elephants that we started it with. Now, Honey's Ocelot. Speaking of elephants, the last question for the sunrise safari, you want to know if elephants sneeze. And I've never seen an elephant sneeze. I actually don't think that they can with their trunk setup. They can snort and blow, because obviously they do get stuff stuck up their trunks, bits of dust and all sorts of things. So they will blow air out of their trunks, but I have never seen an elephant sneeze. As far as I know, I don't think they can. I've also never seen an elephant yawn. Again, I think with their trunk and nasal structure, it's a little bit tricky. It's amazing the strange things that you learn working out here and just sitting and observing the animals. They don't sneeze and they don't yawn. And as far as I know, they also don't vomit. I remember having this discussion with one of our viewers many months ago. Oh, here we go. Massive herd of elephants gathering and moving past. We'll have to wait for them before we start our race off towards the breakfast table. I hope you're all excited about the fireside chat this evening and that you've sent through all of your questions in advance. We look forward to seeing you all then. And unfortunately, as we end off with a beautiful elephant sighting, it is a time for us to say farewell. So, a big thank you to Viam for his wonderful camera work, as well as to Kirst, and I think to Lou and D2. Kirst, who's your D2? I'm not 100% sure who the D2 is today. It is Lou. It is Lou. So there we go. Big thank you to Kirsten Lou in Final Control, as well as to our tech team on the ground, which at the moment is just Alex. And most importantly, a big thank you to all of you watching across the globe. I hope you had a marvelous time and that we will catch up with you on the Sunset Safari this evening. I think we should finish off with a look at these beautiful elephants as they stream across the road in front of us. How very beautiful. Bye-bye, everyone.